Viewers, for decades, Lutyens Delhi became a byword for grandeur, sweeping vistas, magnificent cupolas, steepling bell towers. For a certain class of Indians, these were the hallmarks of refinement, the very epitome of civilization. They thought no end of a man called Edwin Lutyens, who's in the middle of your screens, viewers. And he was revered as the god of a modern view, a project to civilize. As I said, viewers, the very epitome of civilization. But which civilization? He was certainly not the herald of a Bharatiya civilization. For years, viewers, the Congress ecosystem normalized the legacy of Edwin Lutyens, a man whose private correspondence contains openly racist views about Indians. Now, viewers, this is not an argument against preserving built heritage. It is a question about public veneration, about whether the state should symbolically honor someone whose own words reflected deep contempt for the very people he was tasked to build for. In letters to his wife, Emily Eden, Edwin Lutyens wrote of Indian laborers that they ought to be reduced to slavery, beaten like brute beasts. Let me read out, viewers, some of his horrific thoughts. And you tell me if a man who harbors such hate, such discrimination, such a dehumanized outlook should be respected. So he said, viewers, on Indians in general, that if you meet them, they do not improve with acquaintance. They are children without the charm of heaven. The average Indian seems a hopeless creature. This is the kind of contempt, viewers, he shared of Indians. On Indian labor, the very people who were breaking their back, viewers, to build, give physical shape to his designs. This is what he said. They ought to be reduced to slavery and not given the rights of man at all, and beaten like brute beasts and shot like man-eaters. That's what he said. These were his words. On Indian religions, I'm not impressed by the intellectual side of any religion I have seen here. On Indian monuments, viewers, he had only contempt. And yet his most famous creation, the Viceroy's Palace, now Rashtrapati Bhavan, sits aloof on Raisina Hill, a self-contained imperial power center. Parliament representing the people lies off the axis, viewers, on the side tucked away. The architectural message was clear. Sovereignty flowed from the British Crown. Now, 78 years after independence, the NDA government has decided to replace Lutyens' bust at Rashtrapati Bhavan with that of C. Rajagopalachari or Rajaji, India's first Governor General, the person who was appointed to oversee the transfer of power. The Congress ecosystem calls it dismantling heritage. Viewers, this is what they are saying. And let me once again read out some of their views. They're saying that whatever is left of Lutyens' legacy is being broken down. Viewers, his legacy was one of contempt for Indians. He harbored those feelings in his heart. This is not about his architecture. What use is art, viewers, if it is built on artless outlook and debasement of others? That is not art. That is not art, viewers. They say that we must preserve our heritage, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They don't tell you, viewers, that you can, when they are in foreign countries. And here's the contrast. When they are in foreign countries, viewers, they are supporting movements like the Black Lives Matter movement. Remember that, viewers? After the killing of an African American male, George Floyd, many of the same voices that are today shedding tears for Lutyens' legacy amplified Black Lives Matter, a movement that supported removing statues of colonial figures like Cecil Rhodes and Henry Morton Stanley. If colonial commemoration is unacceptable in Bristol, Oxford, Harvard, why is it acceptable in Delhi? The question isn't whether Lutyens was a gifted architect. Of that, viewers, I don't think many people will have a doubt. The question is whether such a man merits state-sponsored reverence in a sovereign India. Germany, viewers, under Hitler progressed. They had some of the finest cars, the best jet engines, missile technology. They built the best autobahns, which are still in use today. But does anyone go around saying that we must preserve Hitler's legacy? No, viewers. Hitler has been erased. Why? Because he dehumanized other peoples. This is exactly what Edwin Lutyens has done all through his life. He's dehumanized us. And there is an ecosystem in this country that says, no, 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 we must honor his legacy. Viewers, let's open this up, because this is a question that needs to be interrogated, I think. We need to ask ourselves, where are we going with this sentimentalism? Viewers, I have a word for it. And that, viewers, is that this is woke. And let me tell you, viewers, performativism. Woke performativism. In New York, you stand and you say that the Confederate statues must be brought down. In London, you say colonial statues must be brought down and the people who are militating against them are right. In India, you say, no, 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 honor them. Honor their legacy. The good, the bad, the ugly, honor it. Viewers, let's open this up. I want to bring in Suhail Seth, who's a columnist. And I want to begin with you first. Mr. Seth, what do you make of this? I'm a little thrown off. Look, I'm not talking about Lutyens, the architect here. Have books about his architecture, put them in your archives, etc., save his blueprints, and so forth. But what is this? What are we up to?
You know, half the people who are discussing Lutyens and his so-called historical legacy, have no idea about what he did, what he said, and how he behaved. And I'm glad we've gotten rid of him. You know, we can't immediately raise those buildings to the ground, and most of the politicians won't have it because they live in Lutyens bungalows. We have a Lutyens zone. I mean, what more do they want? Should we rename Delhi to Lutyens? I mean, it is ridiculous. This man doesn't deserve a bust in Rashtrapati Bhavan. To be honest, Rahul, until this became news, I didn't even know we had a bust of him there. Can you imagine now every large, mausoleum or monument, is there a bust of Shah Jahan at Taj Mahal? I don't think so. Is there? No. So to have a bust and say, oh, if you're removing his bust, that means you're decrying history. Rubbish. What historical contribution has Lutyens made apart from his vile statements on Indians calling us natives? What has his contribution been? As you rightly said, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, or in the earlier days, the Viceregal Lodge or Viceregal Mansion was there to project the hegemony of the British Raj. It had no Indian contribution or no Indian soul. And I'm glad we are now retrieving our historical legacy as we must. The problem, Rahul, is it's not the colonization history that we are upset about. We have been far too long colonized in our minds and in our souls. And when that comes to crumble, it hurts us. we don't have any idea about our own architects, about our own architecture. We don't even know how our palaces were built. We don't even know how monuments or gardens or parks were built by great Indian architects. Ask these Congress gentlemen or ladies to tell you who were the greatest of Indian architects. They won't have a clue because we've been fed on this neoclassical history for far too long. And I'm glad that we are getting rid of it, especially from the seat of the highest office of the land and replacing it with Rajaji's statue, who was a devout Indian, a great nationalist, and his contribution to India's history is seminal. Let people know who actually helped create the India of today, not just through buildings and designs, but through a seminal contribution to our history and who we are.
Okay, so Tehseen Poonawalla, a huge number of Congress leaders are very upset. Luckily, Shashi Tharoor has distanced himself from their views. But there are many of them who are very upset. They said, why don't you have both of their busts in place? I mean, you're putting Rajaji at the same pedestal as Edwin Lutyens, a racist.
Thank you, Rahul, for having me on the show. Hafiz Contractor, Brinda Somya, Raj Rewal, Sheila Sri Prakash, many Indian architectures, some contemporary, some old. Achyut Kanivande, he passed away in 2002, or 2001 when Vajpayee was there. Some 19th century, great architecture. So I do know my architecture. So thank you, Sohail. But
Not
couple
architecture,
of things.
architects.
And architects. Architects. I gave you names of
Name me
architects.
an architect of the 16th
I just
century
gave you names.
or
But
the
let me,
17th century.
Sohail, I didn't interrupt you. Let me
Okay,
make my
sorry.
point.
No, since you mentioned my name, I have to come in.
I named architects.
Since you mentioned my name, I interrupted you.
I named
If you had not
architects.
mentioned my name, I wouldn't have interrupted
Sure,
you.
but I gave architects, the name of architects. Now we can
Yeah,
argue
you
and
confused
disagree.
between
And we can,
architecture and architects. That was my worry.
I named architects. Achyut ji, Hafiz Contractor,
Hafiz
Raj
contractor is
Rewal.
now, yeah. Hafiz contractor is now.
I'm giving you from 19th century to today contemporary. I just
No, that way I'll give you a whole list. Yeah, I've got
Exactly.
architects
So
digest in front of me.
you should have been. I gave you a list of architects who I think are the greatest in India.
You
Can we
know
come
what
to the
we're
point?
talking
But I
about,
agree with you.
You know what
but I
we're
actually
talking
agree.
about.
But we both know what we're talking about. Let's agree to disagree, and can I continue? First of all, my friend C.R. Keshavan is here from the BJP. So I'm very happy the Pratima of Rajaji is being put up. And I saw your pictures with the Honorable President, Her Excellency. So I'm very, very happy for that. This deserves and it should have come early. I've said that in my bite. I think it is fantastic. I think India should know more about Rajaji, his contribution. And I'm a fan of Rajaji, not just for non-violence, but for the other thing.
Mr.
No,
Poonawalla,
please.
take a
Listen,
position.
you
don't waffle. I want to ask you about the Congress's
point,
position. I don't want to know about your position. You're an upright person.
I will not be humiliated. You've called me on the show. Allow me. If you want to interrupt me and use this language, I will leave very respectfully. But don't break my flow. There are things I have to say and there are things that I would like to put across. You want me, I'll say. You don't, I'll keep quiet. You decide what you want. But you invited me. I didn't ask you.
I want you to address the question.
I am, but let me make my points. You're interrupting me. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. There's a point. I think your viewers can get something. So when I'm giving a point of view of an opposition, I think particularly somebody like me, I love the fact that he was the only politician who believed in right-wing economics, actually believed in right-wing economics. He started a political party. So I like that. But this could have come 11 years earlier. 11 years we've had the same prime minister in this country. Today he realized that we have to inspire people with Rajaji. Great. Even if he realized late, all right, welcome it. You could have had the biggest statue in the world. You could have had it at Rashtrapati Bhavan. But to remove the statue of somebody because you thought that the person was bigoted, and I think he was bigoted.
Can I ask a question?
But it's in...
Just
Please, go ahead.
look, you're blaming the BJP for doing the right thing after they came to power.
11 years before Tamil Nadu elections.
68 years before that, Congress
is out of power.
Congress, 68 years before the BJP showed up.
Yes.
In a way that it could do things on its own brute majority.
Sure.
It was a Congress ecosystem and, of course, Congress-affiliated parties that were in power, barring 6 years.
Which is why today...
No, hang on. In all that time, it didn't strike the great Honorable Nehru, who is supposed to be the chacha of liberalism in this country, that maybe the Indian state should not be putting on a pedestal an individual who basically called Indians all sorts of names and said that they should be enslaved and whipped and beaten and flogged and God alone knows what else, and that they are utterly a hopeless creature, children without the charm of heaven. I mean, is that okay?
Your
We give a
question
free
is so
pass.
long. I hope I get the time to answer. I agree with you, Nehru. Let me continue now. It doesn't require a special majority to remove the statue in case of Vajpayee ji. Why did Vajpayee ji not do it? He didn't realize it. 11 years, Modi ji didn't realize it. He realized it before Tamil Nadu elections. That's my problem with the politics. And you know it and I know it. That it is political. And it's fine if it's political.
Why is it wrong if it's political?
I don't
Are you
think it's
trying
wrong.
to tell me if Nehru had done it on day one, it wouldn't have been political? It would have been political.
as if
It would have been a
Indra generally
political
believed in
signal.
minorities.
It would have been a political signal that we have.
I do agree
this
with you.
kind of
So
this
just
kind
30
of logic
seconds.
works
So
in
30
junior
seconds and I'll
debates,
end.
not with
So
all of
30
us here. Yeah, you're
So
mocking
30
our intellect also by doing what
No,
you're doing.
you-
By this brilliant spin that you're creating, you're
No, I'm a
mocking
spinner.
our intellect. We're not that stupid. Yeah, we may not.
Of course you're
have,
not. You're
you
one of the
know,
most intelligent people I know.
No, but yeah, you're making us sound stupid. It's
Why
for
would I
elec-
make you sound
Let's
stu-
imagine
stupid,
if it's
sir?
for elections. फिर क्या हो गया?
It is.
There's an election happening in this country every
I
day.
1 second. So I'll make my point. I'll take 10 seconds. I think it's for elections. Nothing wrong with that. Except don't show it as a sign of virtue. That's all
Hang
I'm
on,
asking
just
you.
a minute.
It's
One
not
second,
virtue.
Mr.
Don't
Tehseen
virtue
Poonawalla,
signal. Do it for
when
elections.
former prime ministers of the Congress went to iftar parties,
Arey bhai,
and
Congress
when
is
one
out of
second,
power.
when they talked about when they talked about good old Jinnah and worshipping his bust and so on and so forth, and his photographs in Aligarh Muslim University, what is that not politics?
May I answer that in short? Jinnah's portrait still stands at Aligarh University. It's a central government university.
Yeah.
Throw it out.
No,
Why
one
is this
second,
government
one
not
second, one
throwing it
second.
out?
That's, hang on. I'm just saying. I'm asking
that's
you a
what I'm saying.
question. I'm asking you a question.
This is not a government of virtue.
I'm asking you about optics.
It's a
When
political
political
move, and
leaders.
congratulations.
No, hang on. I'm only asking you a very simple question. When Nehru said that I don't want to build Somnath, what was he being?
Nehru built Somnath.
I'm asking you, what was he being?
Nehru built Somnath.
There is enough. Come on, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
in the cabinet.
the first president of India, Rajendra Prasad, had
That's a
to take him
different
off.
issue.
It's on record.
Yes,
What do you mean it's a different
that's
issue?
true.
What did he call it?
Now, if
Hindu
you allow me, I'll tell
revivalism.
you on Somnath, but
Anyhow,
we will
the
not
point
allow me.
is,
Nehru's cabinet cleared Somnath.
Okay.
Gadgil built it from Pune.
You're defending the indefensible, and you're now blaming the BJP for doing something and playing to the political
I'm
gallery. I'm glad they're
congratulating
playing
the
to the
BJP,
political
but I'm saying it's
gallery's
not
viewers,
virtue.
because
It's
this is a
politics, and
political
great.
turn. This is an
Great.
important one. Hang on 1 minute. Let me bring in C.R. Keshwan, since he's sitting here. He's the direct descendant of Rajaji. There's also Mr. Gupta, and of course there is Mr. Gawande, who's looking very upset with us today. But let me bring in
Unlike him.
Mr. Keshwan. Mr. Keshwan, it's a simple and straightforward question. Tehseen Poonawalla says this is all political, and that political motives are at play. There's Tamil Nadu elections. How do you react to this honor, first of all, bestowed upon your grandfather, and also this political question that is being raised?
Hello, Rahul, to all the viewers of CNN News 18. First, I'd like to thank our Honorable President, Draupadi Murmu ji, for unveiling the bust sculpture of Puja Rajaji in Rashtrapati Bhavan yesterday. And also, we express our earnest gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who had sent a very poignant message, which was read out during the Rajaji Utsav celebrations held in Rashtrapati Bhavan yesterday. Puja Rajaji would have been very happy in the manner in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is ushering in a new India, dismantling the colonial mindset, breaking Macaulay's mindset, and also in the erstwhile Congress regimes, we saw how symbols of slavery were being celebrated. Now, Prime Minister Modi ji has done away with these colonial remnants, and more importantly, what I would say with all respect is, after independence for decades, the Congress party had deliberately sidelined the sacrifices and contributions of great patriots and nationalists, great heroes and heroines of a freedom movement, because the Congress party was obsessed with their focus on just one family. So they whitewashed the contributions of great leaders. But Prime Minister Modi ji has corrected this historical sin of the Congress party, and he's done a course correction. And whether it is Rajaji now or before, we saw how Dr. Ambedkar ji, Netaji, Bose, Sardar Patel ji, he has revived, rightfully revived their glorious legacies, and importantly, he has created awareness among our younger generation about their contributions by honoring them. I just want to cite one example, Rahul. People didn't know about the, stupendous contribution of the tribal community to the freedom movement. Only Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji ensured that the great Bhagwan Birsa Munda ji's birth anniversary was celebrated as Jan Jatiya Gaurav Divas, and Modi ji was the first Prime Minister to even visit the birthplace of Bhagwan Birsa Munda ji. This shows how the Congress party had sidelined great patriots and how Prime Minister Modi ji is bringing back their glorious legacy and is, taking inspiration.
Okay, so let me ask Mr. Gawande. Mr. Gawande, here is a statement. They ought to be reduced to slavery and not given the rights of man at all and beaten like brute beasts and shot like man-eaters. Now, I want to ask you a question, Mr. Gawande. Do you think this is offensive? Is this offensive?
Let me start off by saying...
No, I only asked you a question. Don't start off. Please answer my question. Is this offensive? One second. Is this offensive? Of course. Now wait for my second question, please. Salman Rushdie wrote a book, did he not? Called Satanic Verses? Yes or no?
Yes.
What did the Congress say about that book? Should it be sold in this country? Yes or no?
The Congress party banned that book.
Banned that book. Why? Because it was deemed offensive. They cancelled, viewers. They cancelled Salman Rushdie. He's a great writer. He'd by then already written the winner of the Booker of Bookers, Midnight's Children, and 3 others. There was no doubt about his art. But the Congress said that we cannot have people who cause offense, who dehumanize or whatever their words were. So we must ban them. But here, viewers, the same Congress is putting on a pedestal a man that Anish Gawande says has said a rotten thing about Indians. So explain to me this dichotomy. I just want to understand this dichotomy. Gawande.
So firstly, Rahul, thank you for making me smile by bringing up Rushdie when I tried very hard to be in a grim mood. But let me put this very clearly, right? It is undeniable that Edward Lutyens was a vile racist in whose creations today the president resides, the prime minister resides, and the leader of opposition resides. This is a fact that we cannot ignore. Now, my concern here, beyond the fact that I'd much rather not be debating statues every month, as we seem to be doing, and I'd much rather be debating a trade deal, is that we miss the point when we call for the removal of statues instead of an acknowledgement of their legacy. And let me just bring out a very simple example to prove my point. The Indian way of doing things is to not erase the past. We had this conversation when there were demands to remove Aurangzeb's grave. And I said very clearly then that it was Shahu Maharaj the first who had gone and paid his respects at Aurangzeb's grave, despite that man being one of the cruelest and most vile emperors to have ruled this country, because that is our tradition. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi says we should be a Vishwaguru, let that statue of Edward Lutyens stand, and let us remember what he said. And let me remind you that 1984 book, which you quote from as well in your piece today, which has his letters to his wife, should serve as testament and testimony to the atrocities committed against our people and should remain there as a...
I'm asking you a question, Mr. Gawande. Should this man's statue be where it is? Simple question.
Just answer it.
The statue should absolutely be where it is.
Okay.
If it was there previously,
so
why don't we have a plaque below it?
Here is what the National Herald, the Congress mouthpiece, had said during the Black Lives Matters protest. It had come out, viewers, and said that the agitation demanding the toppling of colonial figures in the UK and in North America is a legitimate affirmation of Aboriginal rights. So, viewers, colonial statues, if they are up in the UK and all of that, they should be toppled. But in India, we should garland them.
No,
What
can I
would you
answer
call
that?
this, viewers? I'd say
But no
that
one's
this is
saying to
an
garland them. Why are you
inferiority
putting words in
complex.
our mouth? I'm
Can I
sorry, you're
answer
putting
that in
words
one
in.
quick second, Rahul?
The National Herald said exactly that, viewers. And here we have a person who says, let's honor this statue and keep it where it is. Mr. Gupta.
No, Rahul, because
no,
Rahul,
it's
one
it's okay.
second.
Look,
One second.
I'm
Can I add one line?
You have made your
One
point.
line. I promise you, just 10 seconds.
Take 20.
Rahul, I promise you, I am many things, but a hypocrite I am not. If I accepted the Rhodes Scholarship after knowing what Rhodes did, with what face will I ask you to remove Lutyens' statue?
So there you are. Good point.
Are you saying that the
Deny smiling.
National Herald doesn't represent the Congress point of view? I'm asking you, why are there double standards? Can you explain this to me?
Darned will I be if I try to become national spokesperson for the Congress party when I'm the NCP.
So viewers, here it is. This is exactly what I was saying. These guys, when they want to espouse a cause, because I'll tell you why, viewers. Because out of that Black Lives Matter came out the Dalit Lives Matter. So at that time, they were grandstanding. And they were saying, bring down the icons of Brahminical patriarchy. So when it serves their political interests, they wag their tails. And when it doesn't, viewers, they bare their fangs. This is the dichotomy. Mr. Gupta, explain this. I'm trying to understand this.
Good evening, Rahul. You made a very interesting point about inferiority complex. Lutyens was commissioned during the reign of King George V. Let's go back to King George III, during whose reign we had the American independence. Days after the Declaration of Independence was signed, you know what the Americans did with the statue of King George in New York? They melted it and made bullets out of it. This is a documented event. And they did that to a lot of other statues back in 1776. And today here we have people being uncomfortable with the idea of the bust of Edward Lutyens being removed from Rashtrapati Bhavan. I'd say the Prime Minister should go 10 steps ahead. The geographical political nucleus of this country should be renamed. It cannot be named after a British who was a racist. It should be named, it should have a name which is rooted in Indian culture. Let's call it Dharmaprastha. We already have the Kartavya Path, we already have the Seva Tirth. Let's call Lutyens the Dharmaprastha. The geographical political nucleus of this country should be about upholding the Dharma. But the attitude of the Congress surprises me. For 75 years, we've been generous enough to let that bust be there where it is. And today, when someone is deciding to replace it, they all want to retain the past. They all want to retain the ethos of the past. I do not understand this obsession with the relics of the British Raj the Congress has. I understand it was an Englishman who founded the party. But this obsession with the British Raj, this needs to go. They talk about honoring the past, remembering the past. It was their party which filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying we need a proof of Lord Ram. Have we forgotten that? This party has not moved an inch for Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, even with all the archaeological finds. But today they are batting for Edward Lutyens as if their lives depend on it. If this is not colonial mentality, if this is not the attitude of a brown sepoy, what else it is?
So let me just tell you, viewers, and I want to bring in Mr. Keshwan and Suhail Seth once again. I just want to point out one small thing. And this is an important point in the larger context of this debate. Look, we're not here to say, melt this particular bust. Put it in a museum. Put it in the right context. Put it next to other races. Suhail Seth, would that be a problem?
Yeah, Anish talked about his dilemma with hypocrisy qua the Rhodes Scholarship. It's about you, Anish. You're an individual. I don't think history books will be as peppered of your remarkable achievements as they would qua the Rashtrapati Bhavan where a bust resides. Sometimes signaling is equally important. And no one is saying that Lutyens was bad or good or ugly. That's not the point. The point is, should the citadel of India's highest office give umbrage or give succor to a man who was totally contemptuous of everything that was Indian? B, the bust has not only been removed, it has been replaced with a far worthier bust. That is the point. The point is not the erasure of history. The point is replacing history with acclaimed individuals whose accomplishments have truly been contributory to the India we are and the India we shall hopefully remain. That is the essential point. So I agree with you. It's not about just the removal of a bust. It's also about righting many wrongs. For instance, after Mandela took over, he didn't need to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but he did. He didn't want the wounds of the past to fester and affect the future of South Africa. I think in more ways than one, we are taking ownership and rightful ownership of the history that is proudly ours without being apologetic or going the other extreme where you vandalize statues. That would have been the other extreme. So I think we're still on even keel as far as this particular bust is concerned.
Well, in this case, history can be preserved as a museum to discrimination. You can have this guy's statue alongside 5 others in a museum, and you can tell your generations that look at these people, they ruled us, this is what they believed we were. No one is saying, but it cannot be at this site. And someone has spotted it, and yes, the Tamil Nadu elections are there, and therefore, Mr. Keshwan, let me ask you, this is what Mr. Gawande is saying. Why are you doing this at the expense of raising or whitewashing history? This is the question, Mr. Keshwan.
The fact of the matter is, it is the Congress party which blackened out, whitewashed, and pushed history under the carpet. That is the fact of the matter, and the people who are making these vile allegations are rattled because now the youngsters in the country are asking, where was this history? Now they know there is Punch Teeth celebrating 5 birthplaces, places associated with Ambedkar ji. They're talking about the INA, Indian National Army, but before there was no mention during the Congress rule. The criticism now is because the Congress party is rattled scared that their historical sins of trying to deliberately sideline these patriots is now being exposed, which is why they are worried and such statements are coming out. But the Congress party is a divided house, Rahul. You saw how Mr. Shashi Tharoor has commended Rajaji's bus sculpture being inaugurated, and very importantly, and he said he was a fan of Rajaji for a Swatantra party. And Rajaji started the Swatantra party to fight against the Congress permit license quota Raj. So there the Congress party stands exposed again.
Okay, so finally, let me just ask you this, because again, some people are saying that let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Lutyens was just a contracted architect. He wasn't representing the state at that time, which was the British imperial state. Mr. Keshwan.
How the criticism is coming from people who have never admired our glorious history, who have never respected India's traditional culture, ethos, and civilizational glory. These are the same people who criticize the Ram Mandir as a Najkana event and find an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying it's there is no historical proof of Lord Ram. These were the same people of the Congress party who opposed the great Somnath temple, glorifying the invaders, rather than respecting the great bravery of people like Ahilyabai Holkarji, who for decades, people like them who protected the Somnath temple. So the fundamental differences is very clear. On one side, you have the Congress party and their ilk, who are very uncomfortable with India's history, and are also they disrespect India's civilizational roots and ethos. And on the other side, you have Prime Minister Modi ji, who is ushering in a Viksit Bharat, taking inspiration from our roots and ensuring that a younger generation is also aware of that. And he's leading India towards Atmanirbhar, self-reliant India.
Quick ones. Yeah. Tehseen Poonawalla and Mr. Seth, last word for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Without I hopefully without being interrupted, just 2, 3 points. I support this move. But the fact of the matter is there are several institutions, even today, including in the Indian Army regiments that are started by the same crown that treated us Indians terribly. They put out signs, dogs and Indians not allowed. There are several institutions that are named after individuals, British individuals who are racist. Why don't you do everything at one time? You don't want to do it. I'm very happy. And yes, I was a fan because I believe in free markets of Rajaji. And so what if he fought the Congress and I vote Congress? That's not the point. The point is, Keshavan, I learned about Rajaji because the Congress history taught me, history that the Congress put. So I'm sorry out there. But the fact of the matter is that while this is a great move, it's a political move done for Tamil Nadu elections. I wish them the best. It should have happened sooner. The Congress missed out on it. Great the BJP done it. But this is not some virtue. This is the BJP's done it out of political compulsions. Okay, they've done it out of political compulsions. There are hundreds of institutions, including the National Defence Academy, NDA, which the British built, which the British have run, there are in India Gate, there are names of Indian soldiers who died fighting for the British crown, who martyred themselves. So please.
I have to say, Tehseen, today I doff my hat. Something has happened to you this evening, my friend. Just check the tea you're drinking. Because by that logic, we should destroy everything which has even a touch of the British or the Mughals or anywhere. You want India Gate to go, you want the NDA to go. I mean, the logic is unfathomable. The point simply here is, do you believe the replacement of the bust of a contracted architect with Rajaji's bust was a good move or not? The answer is yes. Whether it was for political reasons, the answer still remains the same. A. B. You made a point that you learned your history about Rajaji from Congress history. That's the point. We want Indian history. We don't want Congress or BJP history. The problem is every political party wants to change the narrative. We want Indians to learn about Indian history without the political color that is often injected into our history books. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Let me wrap this up. Viewers, remember,
allow me to respond.
I think we made our points, yeah. I mean, I think we made
enough.
All I'm saying, viewers, look, in March, on the 4th of March, 1995, Bombay was renamed Mumbai.
Congress.
Yes. Now, viewers, why was that done? Because there was a nativist impulse, and there were many people who were saying that, look, you need to decolonize our minds. Why do you think the Congress did it? If it had such great affections for legacy and so on and so forth, and history and documented history, it wouldn't have. But it bowed to a political pressure. It gave in.
They couldn't touch the Bombay High Court.
Yeah, they couldn't touch the Bombay High Court.
Exactly. Or the Calcutta High Court. They can't mess around with the judges.
Yeah. You can't do it. You can't do it to legislation.
So all I'm saying, viewers, is that the Congress picked its moment. Modi has picked his. But is the intervention wrong? That is what we were getting at.
That's the moot point.
That's the moot point. And if you're going to constantly be clouded by a colonial mindset, then we're done for, viewers. Let me tell you this, because we will be aspiring to look good in the eyes of the people who basically at the end of the day are today on the downward slide.